The sun casts a golden glow over Odeomi, a vibrant fishing village nestled on the Nigerian coast, where the rhythm of life is dictated by the ebb and flow of the Atlantic. Here, a young boy named Jide, his eyes bright with the curiosity of youth, sits beside his father, his small hands learning the intricate dance of mending a fishing net. His childhood is a tapestry woven with threads of simple joy. The thrill of a football game on the warm beach with his friends, the enchanting tales spun by his mother under the soft light of the moon, and the quiet pride of learning to guide a small canoe through the gentle, shallow waters. These moments, as fleeting as the sea foam, etch themselves into the heart of his idyllic world, painting a portrait of a life cradled by the sea and the love of his family. The bond between Jide and his parents is as deep and constant as the ocean itself. His father, a man whose skin is weathered by sun and salt, teaches him the ancient songs of the sea, melodies that speak of bountiful catches and safe returns. He points to the night sky, naming the constellations that have guided generations of fishermen home. His mother's love is a sanctuary, a warm embrace that shields him from the world's worries, her presence a constant, comforting reassurance. In their small home, filled with the scent of dried fish and the sound of laughter, Jide's world feels unshakable, as permanent as the stars his father taught him to name. But the sky, once a canvas of brilliant blue, begins to change. The sunlit days give way to an oppressive, heavy grey that hangs low over the village. The sea, once a calm and playful companion, grows restless, its surface churning with a nascent anger. The village elders, their faces etched with the wisdom of years spent reading the ocean's moods, gaze out at the horizon, their expressions clouded with worry. Despite their unspoken warnings, Jide's father, driven by the need to provide, decides to venture out for one last catch. He presses a gentle kiss to Jide's forehead, his voice a low rumble as he promises to return with a fish big enough to feast on for days. The promise is broken by the fury of the heavens. A violent storm descends upon Odeomi, a maelstrom of howling wind and torrential rain that lashes down with relentless force. The villagers, their homes trembling against the onslaught, huddle together, praying for the tempest to pass. By the next morning, the storm has exhausted its rage, leaving behind a scarred landscape and a silence heavier than the grey clouds that still lingered. A search party is quickly formed, their grim faces reflecting the fear that grips the village. Jide stands on the shore, a small, solitary figure, watching as the men venture into the unsettled waters, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm of dread against his ribs. Then he sees it. A piece of his father's boat, broken and empty, is pulled from the churning waves. In that moment, Jide's world does not just crack, it shatters into a million pieces. The reality of his loss crashes over him, and he collapses onto the sand, his small body convulsing with a grief so profound that his cries are swallowed by the ceaseless roar of the waves. The village mourns with the orphaned boy. A quiet, somber funeral is held, a collective expression of a community's shared sorrow. Days turn into a week, and Jide finds himself standing alone on the same stretch of beach where he once played, his bare feet sinking into the damp sand. He looks out at the vast, indifferent ocean that gave him life and then took it away. A profound change settles over him as he stands before its immensity. His grief, a wild and consuming fire, slowly cools, hardening into something new. In a close-up, his eyes, once filled with the bright light of childhood, now hold a steely, unwavering glint of determination. He has known the depths of loss, but he will not be broken. He will survive. For Jide, the world had lost its color. In the days and weeks that followed his father's passing, everything blurred into a muted, desolate grey. The once vibrant greens of their home in Odeomi, a place that had always hummed with life, now seemed dull and lifeless. Even the cheerful golden sun felt like a distant, cold memory, its warmth unable to penetrate the thick fog of his grief. Each new morning was just a continuation of the same monochrome existence, a world leached of its joy and vibrancy, mirroring the emptiness that had taken root in his young heart. He found a strange, solitary comfort by the river, a place where laughter once echoed with the sound of his father's voice. Now only a deafening silence remained, amplifying the hollowness inside him. He would sit there for hours, the cool breeze a faint touch on his skin, his eyes fixed on the gentle current. With a small stick, he'd trace meaningless patterns in the soft, damp sand, imagining the comforting weight of his father's hand covering his own, guiding his movements, just as he had done so many times before. But the sand would remain empty, the patterns washed away by the tide, just like his hopes. His mother, though wrestling with her own immense sea of sorrow, became his unshakable anchor in the storm. She saw the light dimming in her son Er's eyes and fought to keep it from extinguishing completely. She would find him by the river or lost in the quiet corners of their home and hold him close, her embrace a fortress against the encroaching despair. Her own silent tears, falling onto his hair, were a testament to their shared, unbearable loss. In the quiet evenings, she would whisper tales of the great, kind man they both missed, her voice weaving memories that were both painful and precious. Together they were a unit of two, a small island in an ocean of grief, bound by an unbreakable cord of love and loss. Their quiet existence was a somber painting of sorrow, rendered in shades of grey and shadow. Yet, within this shared heartache, something resilient was being forged. In their quiet, understanding glances across the dinner table, in their tight, desperate embraces that said more than words ever could, a new powerful bond was taking shape. It was a bond that promised, in its own silent way, that a dawn would eventually come to break the long, dark night. The world, once a place of warmth and love, had turned cold for Jide. His mother, his last beacon of hope, was fading. The light in her eyes dimmed with each passing day, and Jide could only watch, his small heart heavy with a sorrow too big for his years. One dawn, the silence in their hut was different. It was heavy, final. His mother was gone. Now an orphan, Jide faced the world alone. Days were a struggle for a morsel of food, nights a battle against the cold and the gnawing loneliness. He was a shadow in his own village, unseen, unheard. Just when the darkness threatened to swallow him whole, a hand reached out. It was his uncle, a man from the sprawling city of Lagos, his eyes holding a promise of a new beginning. The village faded behind him, and the city lights beckoned, whispering tales of a future yet unwritten. Lagos was a whirlwind, a stark, breathtaking contrast to the gentle rhythms of his village. The air itself buzzed with a frantic energy, a chaotic symphony of roaring cars, shouting vendors, and music pouring from every corner. Towering buildings scraped the sky, casting long shadows that Jide found both intimidating and fascinating. It was a sea of unfamiliar faces, a million stories unfolding at once. His uncle's home, a modest apartment tucked away from the main bustle, was a sanctuary of warmth Jide had forgotten he could have. His aunt, a woman with a smile as warm as the morning sun, welcomed him not as a burden but as a son. His cousins, initially shy, soon pulled him into their world of street football. Complex city games and shared secrets whispered late at night. Yet, even wrapped in this newfound comfort, the ghosts of his past lingered. In quiet moments, the faces of his parents would surface, a bittersweet ache in his chest. He was a boy caught between two worlds, the one he had lost and the one he was just beginning to know. But in the steady rhythm of the city, in the unwavering kindness of his new family, Jide found a flicker of hope, a fragile seed taking root. This was his new reality, a chance to rebuild, a place to perhaps one day call home again. The crisp fabric of the donated school uniform felt like a suit of armor, and the weight of second-hand books in his backpack was a comforting burden. For Jide, school in Lagos wasn't just a building, it was a sanctuary, a beacon guiding him out of the darkness. He devoured knowledge with a hunger born from loss, the city's relentless pace fueling his own quiet, burning ambition. Every equation solved, every page turned, was a silent promise to his parents, a way to make their memory a legacy of strength, not sorrow. He poured the pain of his past, especially the helplessness he felt watching his mother fade into a fierce resolve. The years melted away, sculpting the small, grieving boy into a sharp, determined young man. In high school, he wasn't just another student, he was a force. The library became his haven, its silence a canvas for his dreams. The long nights spent under a single dim lamp, fueled by his aunt's encouragement and his uncle's quiet pride, paid off. The dream, once a distant whisper, became a roar with the arrival of a single, life-altering envelope. His hands trembled as he read the words, "Accepted, University of Lagos." His chosen path, medicine. It was more than a career, it was a calling, a path to mend, to heal, to fight the darkness he knew so intimately, and to give back the life and hope that was once so generously given to him. The University of Lagos was more than an institution. It was a crucible, a relentless trial by fire designed to forge healers. The days were a blur of lectures, the nights bled into dawn, illuminated by the glow of a reading lamp over endless textbooks. The air in the anatomy lab, thick with the scent of formaldehyde, was the air of discovery. The daunting weight of human life settled on his shoulders during his first clinical rotation. He wasn't just learning about diseases, he was learning about people, about fear, hope, and the fragile thread of life. Every patient's story resonated with his own. In the worried eyes of a mother, he saw his own mother's face. In the suffering of a child, he felt the echoes of his own helpless past. This wasn't just a degree. It was his crusade against the darkness that had once consumed his world. He studied not just to pass exams, but to find answers. He treated not just symptoms, but the person beneath them. His professors noted his incisive questions and his tireless work ethic. His patients felt the rare, genuine empathy that flowed from him. Finally, the day of reckoning and reward arrived. The graduation gown felt heavier than any textbook. As his name was called, a lifetime of struggle, resilience, and hope culminated in that single moment. Walking across the stage, degree in hand, he locked eyes with his uncle and aunt, their faces beaming with a pride that mirrored the sun. In that moment, he wasn't just Jide, the orphan from a forgotten village. He was Dr. Jide, a healer, a promise fulfilled. The glittering opportunities of Lagos were laid at his feet. Prestigious hospitals courted him, offering a life of comfort and acclaim he could once only dream of. But in the quiet moments, amidst the city's unending roar, his heart heard a different call, a gentle, persistent whisper of home. He saw his mother's face, not in the polished halls of city hospitals, but in the weathered faces of the villagers he saw in his mind's eye, those who walked for miles under a relentless sun for just a sliver of medical hope. The choice became clear. He packed his bags, trading the city's golden promise for a purpose that resonated in his very soul. He returned to the countryside, to a community nestled in the hills, a place that mirrored the one he had lost so long ago. With his own hands and the help of the grateful community, he built a small clinic. It was humble, a simple structure of mud, brick, and tin, but for the people it served, it was a fortress of hope. In the grateful eyes of a mother whose child he had healed, he found his true reward. He was home, not just to a place, but to his purpose, to heal, to serve, and to build a world where no child would ever again have to watch their parent fade away without a fight. This was